Today is a very special day because not only are you going to learn this super cool gun effect, but I'm not going to yell at you guys like I normally do. Alrighty then, so here we are inside of Davinci Resolve, and the very first thing that we need to do in order to create this effect is to rotoscope the gun. There's a few different ways we can do this. If we want to work inside of Davinci Resolve, what we could do is go into Fusion, duplicate our media in one node, like so, connect it with a merge, add a polygon node, and then just start to mask out the vandal. Now, the problem with this is that it is going to be very time consuming because there's a lot of movement to the vandal, and what we'd have to do is track that movement in. As you can see, the mask is no longer fitting, so we would have to highlight this, move it over, adjust it so that all the points still fit, and you know, it kind of works, and we could clean it up some more with more keyframes. But again, the problem is that it takes too long. There's a better way to do this. What I did is I added a marker here. That's where I first pull out the vandal, and I'm going to duplicate this clip by holding left alt left click and drag it to the right. And then I'm just gonna trim it down to that marker. Now what I'm gonna do is render it in place by right clicking the clip and then go to render in place. Set it to whatever format you like. I'm using an MP4, and make sure you save it to somewhere where you can easily find it. And then we're gonna go to a website called Runway ML. This is a free AI rotoscoping tool. So we're gonna select green screen, and then we're going to drag in that footage that we just rendered in place and drop it on the timeline. Now I find it best to just start somewhere kind of in the middle and then place a couple dots here, and Runway is going to do its thing and rotoscope it for you. Now the roto is going to be okay. It might be a little rough, so you're going to have to clean it up, and we can choose exclude, and we just click on the areas we don't want the green screen or the rotoscope to be, and then we're going to preview this. It's looking pretty good. We just have to adjust a little bit up top, and we just got to make sure everything behind it is looking good. Perfect. Once you got your rotoscope looking nice, go to the top right hand corner and select done masking, and this will show you what the final product is going to look like with the green screen. Now, when you go to export this, you will see that there is a 720p option, 1080p, and 4K, but in order to get the 1080p or 4K, you have to upgrade. Well, don't do this because we can upscale this footage from 720p to 1080p inside of Davinci Resolve. So just export that 720p video. Back inside of Davinci Resolve, what I'm going to do is take this duplicated clip we made earlier and slide that into video track number 2. And then what I'm going to do is drag the green screen video down below it. Next, I'm going to highlight both clips, right click, and then select new Fusion clip and jump right on into Fusion. Now, I don't like the way that the Fusion clips get set up by default. It looks like our background footage is actually our foreground footage. Remember, the gold arrow is background and green arrow is foreground, so these actually have to be switched. What we could do to double check this is just bring it into the second viewer window by hitting 1 on our keyboard, and we want that green screen video there. Boom. We got to key out all of this green. What I'm going to do is hit shift space to bring up the select tool page, and then I'm going to type in delta keyer. All we have to do now is take the eyedropper tool and drop it on the green. Now it looks like we didn't do anything, but if we bring the delta keyer into the second viewer window, you can see the green has been keyed out. Now I know what you're saying. How is this going to help us? Because right now we have a 720p version on the left that's rotoscoped, and on the right we have 1080p, but it's not rotoscoped. What's going on here? What are we gonna do? Well, we're using the 720p version as a matte. So basically everything that is colored right here is going to be included in the 1080p version. We're gonna use it kind of like a mask. So all we have to do is take the output of our delta keyer and connect it to that blue arrow. There you go. And just so you guys can actually see, this is 720p right here, and this is 1080p. you can see just how much crispier. I mean, I'm 200 times zoomed and it looks a lot sharper. Now we're at the same zoom level and this side looks a lot cleaner. Back in the edit tab, what I'm going to do is render this rotoscoped Vandal so that way Davinci Resolve is a little bit better optimized and things are gonna run smoother. Now, if you're following this step by step, I highly recommend you hold off on rendering it in place because I forgot to mention a critical part, which you will see I make that mistake later on in the video. It's coming up right now. Now, if you have the studio version of Davinci Resolve, we could actually skip doing the runway thing and do everything inside of Davinci. So we're gonna head on over to the Fusion page. Next, we're gonna hit Shift Space and we're gonna type in Magic Mask. Now, I find it helpful to bring media in one to that second viewer window, so that way when we start to roto things, we can clearly see the clean plate of everything. Now, inside of Magic Mask, we're gonna change our mode from faster to better, and then we're just gonna draw a couple lines here to try and get a nice clean rotoscope. Now, this isn't very good, so I'm gonna try that again. It was a little bit, it went a little off. Okay, that's not too bad. We can clean this up though by choosing subtract and just finessing this until we get our Vandal looking right. Now all we have to do is hit the track forward and backwards button and we should be good to go. Same thing though, once you have it rotoed, right click, render in place, so that way we can optimize this a little bit better. Now what I'm going to do is make a cut on our clip where we start pulling out that Vandal. So I'm just gonna simply hit B on my keyboard to bring up the blade tool and boom. Then I'm gonna drag our roto right over top because remember, this is, everything here should line up. Oh my God, I completely forgot to mention, you can't render things as an MP4 because then you'll have this black background. So, okay, you know what? Here's the thing. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna undo that, but we're going to render it in place as a QuickTime format, but we're gonna change the codec to DNxHR, and that will fix our problem. So back to what I was saying, we're going to make a cut where we pull out the Vandal, and then we're gonna layer this on top of it, so that way all of this lines up perfectly. Then I'm going to highlight both clips and turn it into a Fusion clip. Once again, go into Fusion. Now what we can do is bring this media into that second viewer window to just double check, hey, we got the roto. Alrighty, time for the fun stuff, creating that glow, and it's really easy to do. We're gonna bring up the select tool page and type in edge detect. We should get this, but we're gonna change our mode from RGB edges to grayscale, and we're gonna select whatever color we want. In this case, it's going to be kind of a reddish color, maybe orange, somewhere around there. Okay, that's looking good. And these edges are kind of blurry, so I'm going to bring down my edge width to sharpen them. And we don't want things like this to be highlighted, so that's where our gamma comes in. So now we're left with these very clean looking lines. As usual, this is good, but we can make it look even better. I'm going to check the edge mask overlay, so that way we're left with just the edges glowing. The next thing that I'm going to do is click off of that edge detect and type in soft glow so it appears off the side like this. Now what we can do from here is take our edge detect, connect that to our soft glow. I'm actually going to bring this into the second viewer window so you can see exactly what I'm doing here. This is not what we want. However, we do want that glow to be underneath. So if I were to connect this like so, that way we have a merge node tied in. In the merge, we can change the operator to under, and bam, look at that. Something else we could do is maybe we don't want the colors of the Vandal to affect this, right? We want the glow to be a certain color. Well, we could add in a color corrector node in between the soft glow and that merge. And now we can change the wheel so that way the glow changes. And what's really nice about having this color corrector node is that we can further adjust the glow settings by bringing up our gain or our gamma down or our gamma up and our gain down. The last thing that we got to do is some keyframing so that this glow appears and we zoom in on the gun and the background's blurry. So let's do that real quick. I think right around here, that's when we pull out the vandal. So in that main merge node, what we're going to do is add a blend keyframe, and at the beginning of the clip, we are going to take our blend all the way down. So as you can see, the glow starts to come in. We could even extend it out to like frame 30 and then go into our spline. Underneath that merge one, we see our blend keyframes. Make sure you hit zoom to fit so you can actually see it. Highlight everything and then just hit S on your keyboard to smooth it out so it eases in. And ooh, that's looking good. Because at frame 30, the glow is fully in, let's also time that zoom in. So we're going to take a transform node right here, drop it in after everything, add a keyframe for our size and center, go back to the beginning, add 2 more, go back to the frame 30 keyframes, and then we're just gonna zoom in here. So we're gonna bring up that size, and there's 2 ways we could reposition this. We could use the X and Y settings over here, or what we could do is just click and drag to move this around. So we'll move it like that, and then same thing, go into spline, find our transform. We're gonna uncheck that merge, zoom to fit, highlight both, S on our keyboard. Looking good. And we got to add some blur. So all we're going to do is drop in a blur node right before our merge, because remember the merge ties in the rotoscope at frame 30. We're going to bump up our blur size. I'm actually going to change it to a box blur so we kind of get a lens effect type thing. And we're going to add a keyframe at frame 0, set it to 0, and go back into spline. Blur, whoop, get rid of the transform, blur, highlight, S, so now everything, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And there you go, that's how you make the gun glow effect. If you are not subscribed, make sure you do it right now, because you'll know when I drop the next tutorial, but also when I go live, so you can see me do tutorials and you get to ask questions. Anyways, I'll catch you in the next one. Goodbye!